Henri Tajfel divided complete strangers into groups using a coin flip. An arbitrary, meaningless distinction the participants knew was entirely random, and still found that people consistently favored their randomly assigned in-group over the out-group when distributing rewards, even at a cost to their own overall gain. This finding revealed something profound and unsettling. Humans do not need genuine conflict, history, or competition to begin favoring an in-group over an out-group. Mere categorization alone is sufficient. Henri Tajfel and John Turner's social identity theory proposes that a substantial part of an individual's self-concept derives directly from their perceived membership in social groups, nationality, profession, sports team allegiance, or countless other category memberships, and that people are consequently motivated to maintain a positive social identity, which they can accomplish through favorable comparisons between their in-group and relevant out-groups, producing systematic in-group favoritism and, in many circumstances, corresponding out-group derogation or bias. Tajfel's landmark minimal group experiments assign participants to groups based on entirely trivial, arbitrary criteria, a coin flip, or stated preference for one abstract painter's work over another's, explicitly telling participants the grouping was random and meaningless, with no history, face-to-face interaction, competition, or any realistic conflict of interest between the groups. Even under these minimal, artificial conditions, participants consistently allocated more resources to anonymous in-group members than to out-group members when given the opportunity, demonstrating that mere categorization into a group, absent any other factor, is sufficient to produce measurable in-group bias. A particularly striking finding from minimal group research is that participants, when allocating resources, frequently chose distribution options that maximize the relative difference favoring their own in-group over the out-group, even when this meant their in-group received a smaller absolute amount of resources than an alternative option would have provided. Participants appeared to value out-group disadvantage and relative in-group superiority more than maximizing their own groups. Objective absolute gain, revealing that intergroup comparison itself, not merely self-interest, drives the observed bias. Gordon Allport's contact hypothesis, extensively validated by subsequent research including large-scale meta-analyses, proposes that intergroup contact reduces prejudice and intergroup conflict most effectively when it occurs under specific conditions: equal status between groups during the contact, cooperation toward shared common goals, opportunities for genuine personal acquaintance between out-group and in-group members, and explicit institutional or authority support for positive intergroup relations. Contact lacking these conditions, particularly contact that lacks equal status or reinforces existing stereotypes, can sometimes worsen rather than improve intergroup relations. Muzaffar Sharif's classic Robbers Cave field experiment, conducted with groups of previously unacquainted boys at a summer camp, found that after deliberately inducing intense intergroup conflict and hostility through competitive activities, subsequent introduction of superordinate goals requiring genuine cooperation between the two groups to achieve, such as jointly repairing a shared water supply that both groups needed, successfully and substantially reduced the previously established intergroup hostility, demonstrating that structured cooperative interdependence toward a shared goal can meaningfully dissolve conflict that mere neutral contact alone often fails to resolve. Samuel Gartner and John DeVideo's common in-group identity model proposes that intergroup bias can be substantially reduced by encouraging members of previously distinct groups to recategorize themselves as belonging to one single, more inclusive superordinate group rather than to their original separate subgroups, for instance, emphasizing shared national or organizational identity that encompasses both original groups. Experimental and field research finds that successful recategorization interventions measurably reduce both explicit and implicit intergroup bias, extending the same in-group favoritism mechanism that originally created bias toward now including the former outgroup. Social identity theory reveals that intergroup bias does not require deep history, genuine competition, or real conflict of interest to emerge. Mere categorization is sufficient. Yet the same research tradition that revealed this uncomfortable truth has also produced genuinely effective, evidence-based strategies, including structured contact, superordinate goals, and recategorization, for reducing the very bias, it explains.